The city was alive with its usual morning rush. Cars honked, people hurried along the sidewalks, and the air smelled faintly of baked bread and fuel from the nearby bakery. Among the crowd, a man in a crisp suit walked quickly, his polished shoes clicking against the pavement. He was late for a meeting, his mind running through numbers, reports, and appointments. Life for him had always been about schedules, deadlines, and decisions. Everything was calculated, precise, and efficient. As he moved past the busy streets, he noticed a small figure at the edge of the sidewalk. The boy was no more than 8 or 9 years old. His clothes were old and worn, and his shoes had holes at the toes. Despite the early morning cold, his face was bare, showing the faint flush of nervousness. The boy was holding a small tattered cloth and a tin of shoe polish. His hands were shaking slightly, and he looked around with a mixture of hope and fear. The man paused for a moment, something about the boy's expression making him slow his pace. The child's eyes were wide, earnest, and pleading. He seemed so small, yet there was a strength in the way he stood, as if he carried a burden much heavier than his shoulders could handle. The boy noticed the man's pause and stepped closer, his voice soft but urgent. "Please, just $10, he said, looking up. "I just need $10 to help my mom." The man stopped completely, lowering himself slightly to meet the boy's gaze. He wasn't used to strangers asking for help in such a direct way, and certainly not in a world where he was always expected to stay busy and polite. There was something raw and unpolished in the boy's words. It wasn't the usual begging he had seen before. There was no arrogance, no shame, only desperation wrapped in honesty. $10? The man asked carefully, his tone softening. He bent down, resting his hands on his knees. "Can you tell me why you need $10? The boy hesitated. He glanced around to make sure nobody was watching too closely. Then he took a deep breath and spoke as if unburdening a secret he had held for too long. "My mom, she's sick. The doctor says she needs medicine, but we don't have enough money. I tried asking people, but I just want to help her. Please." His small hands clutched the cloth tightly, and his eyes shimmered with unshed tears. The man studied him quietly. He noticed the way the boy's lip trembled slightly, the way his hand shook, and the tiny backpack slung over his shoulder that looked like it had carried years of hardship. There was no pretense here, no attempt to manipulate. This boy was simply trying to survive and help the person he loved most in the world. Without thinking, the man bent down a little more. "I see," he said softly. "And you want to earn this money by shining shoes?" "Yes," the boy whispered, his voice barely audible. "I can make them shine. I promise I'll do a good job, please. I just need $10 for my mom." The man smiled faintly, not because the situation was funny, but because of the courage in front of him. At such a young age, most children would have given up, or been afraid to ask. This boy was different. He was determined. He was brave. And he had a love so strong for his mother that he was willing to work under the hot sun, in the cold wind, and in front of strangers who might not care. "All right," the man said finally, straightening slightly. "Sit down. I'll let you shine my shoes." The boy's eyes lit up with a mixture of relief and pride. He quickly knelt in front of the man, set up his small cloth and tin of polish, and began working carefully. He applied the polish in small, even strokes, focusing so intensely that it seemed as though nothing else in the world existed except the shoes in front of him. The man watched quietly. He could see the determination in every movement, the care in every polish, and the concentration in every brushstroke. It was clear this boy took pride in what he did, even if it was a small act that many people would overlook or dismiss. As the boy worked, he spoke softly, almost as if talking to himself. "Mom will be happy. She'll get her medicine. She won't have to worry." His voice cracked and he swallowed hard. The man felt a strange lump in his throat. He had dealt with boardrooms, negotiations, and millions of dollars, but he had never felt anything like this. The boy finished the first shoe, wiped the excess polish, and carefully moved to the second. "I can do more," he said quietly. "I can polish them really well. I just need to help my mom." The man nodded silently, admiring the boy's dedication. He realized that in this small act, there was a story far bigger than shoes or money. This was about love, sacrifice, and survival. It was about a child who was forced to grow up too fast, but who still carried hope in his heart. As the boy polished the shoes, the man looked at him closely. His hair was messy, sticking up in different directions, and his face was smudged with dust from the street. Yet there was something pure in his expression, something that reminded the man of a simpler time before responsibilities and worries had consumed his life. "Do you want me to do anything differently?" the man asked after a moment. The boy shook his head. "No, sir. I can do it. I'll make it shine. I promise." By now the shoes were gleaming, reflecting the sunlight in small bright patches. The boy had worked with such precision that it seemed impossible for such small hands to achieve so much. The man could see his own reflection in the polished leather, but more than that he could see the effort, the hope, and the love that had gone into it. "Here," the man said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a bill and handed it to the boy. "This is more than $10. The boy looked at it, eyes widening, and then back at the man. I can't take this much," he whispered, shaking his head. "It's too much," the man smiled gently. "It's not too much. You've earned it, and I want you to have it. It's for your mom, right?" The boy hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes, it's for her." He took the money carefully, counting it with trembling fingers. His eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of relief, not sadness. "Thank you, sir," he said softly, his voice steady now. "Thank you for helping my mom." The man nodded. "You're welcome. But tell me something. What do you want to do when you grow up? Do you like shining shoes, or do you want to do something else?" The boy thought for a moment, then shrugged. I want to help people. Like I helped my mom. I want to make their lives better." The man smiled, a warmth spreading through his chest that he hadn't felt in a long time. Here was a child who had nothing, yet he thought of others who had so little but still wanted to make a difference. "You will," the man said quietly. "You will make a difference. Keep helping people. Keep working hard. One day you'll see how much impact you can have." The boy nodded again, a small smile forming on his face. He stood up, picked up his cloth and tin, and waved at the man. "I'll try my best, sir. Thank you." The man watched as the boy ran off, his small figure disappearing into the crowd. He felt a strange emptiness mixed with warmth. The encounter was brief, but it had touched something deep inside him. He realized that in a city full of people, rushing past one another, he had just witnessed true courage and selflessness. For the rest of the morning, as the man went about his meetings and calls, he couldn't stop thinking about the boy. The image of the small hands carefully polishing his shoes, the earnest eyes, and the desperate but hopeful plea for $10 stayed with him. He began to wonder how many other children in the city were like this boy, carrying burdens far too heavy for their age, and how small acts of kindness could change lives. That day, something shifted in the man. The city seemed a little different, a little more alive. It wasn't just about deals or schedules anymore. It was about people. It was about moments like this, when two worlds collided for just a few minutes, and something meaningful happened. He knew, without fully understanding why yet, that this boy had left a mark on him that would last forever. And he also knew that he wanted to do more than just hand him a few dollars. Somehow he wanted to make sure that the boy and his mother had a chance at a better life. A chance to live without fear, without hunger, and without constant worry. The encounter on that busy street was just the beginning. What seemed like a small act, shining shoes for a few minutes, was about to grow into something much bigger. But for now, it was enough to know that hope could exist even in the most unlikely places, and that sometimes the smallest voices carried the strongest messages. And so, the boy ran home with the money clutched tightly in his hands, his heart light with hope, while the man continued on his path, carrying with him a lesson about courage, love, and the power of small, meaningful acts that could change lives forever. After that morning, the man couldn't stop thinking about the boy. He had gone to his office, sat in his high-rise building surrounded by glass and steel, and yet the memory of the small hands polishing his shoes stayed with him. The boy's eyes, full of hope and desperation, kept appearing in his mind, reminding him that life wasn't just about meetings, profits, and schedules. There was something deeper, something human that demanded attention. The man had grown up in a world where success was measured by numbers, by achievements, by how many people you could impress or influence. He had never stopped to really notice the struggles of those around him, especially children, but the boy had pierced that armor of indifference with his honesty. He had asked for help, not for toys, not for food, but for his mother, the person who mattered most in his life. During his lunch break, the man found himself walking through the streets again, even though he had no meetings scheduled in that area. He wanted to see if the boy was still there. Perhaps he wanted to see if the child had succeeded in helping his mother. Or maybe he just wanted to watch the determination that had so impressed him. The streets were busy, full of people rushing past each other, lost in their own lives. But there, near the corner where the traffic light met the busy bakery, he saw the boy again. This time the boy was sitting on the curb, polishing shoes that people had dropped off in small piles. His small hands moved with care, scrubbing and shining, never slowing down even as the sun climbed higher. He looked tired, but there was a quiet pride in the way he worked. People often ignored him or walked past, some tossing a coin or two, but most were too busy to notice. The man stepped closer, but this time he didn't approach immediately. He wanted to see the boy as he truly was, alone, hardworking, and determined. It was not just a job for the child. It was a mission. Every shine, every polished shoe was more than work. It was a promise to his mother that he would not let her suffer, that he would do whatever he could to ease her pain. Finally, the boy noticed the man. His face lit up, a small smile breaking through the tiredness. "Hello, sir," he said quietly, standing up. "I'm trying to earn some money. Can I help you again?" The man smiled gently. "Hello, you're working very hard." He looked around at the little pile of shoes, all polished and stacked neatly. "I can see that. You have a good skill. Very few children could do this so well." The boy blushed slightly and looked down. "Thank you, sir. I try my best. Mom says I must do my best in everything, even if it's small." The man felt a warmth spreading in his chest. This boy, so young, carried a sense of responsibility that most adults would struggle with. His words were simple, yet they were powerful, full of lessons about love, commitment, and resilience. "Do you want to tell me more about your mom?" the man asked gently, kneeling slightly to be at eye level. The boy nodded. "She's sick," he said softly, his voice breaking a little. "The doctor says she has a serious illness and she can't work like before. I have to help her. I try to earn money every day. Sometimes it's not enough, but I keep trying." The man listened quietly. He could see the boy's struggle etched into his small frame, the way he hunched slightly from exhaustion, the way his hands were already rough from work, the faint shadows under his eyes from long nights of worry. It was heartbreaking and inspiring all at once. "Do you go to school?" the man asked. The boy shook his head. "I used to," he said softly. "But now I have to work to help Mom. I try to read sometimes, but it's hard. I want to go back one day. I want to learn everything I can. I want to help people when I grow up, like I help Mom now." The man nodded, feeling a mix of admiration and sadness. "You are very brave," he said. "Most children wouldn't do what you're doing. You have a big heart." The boy looked up, hope and shyness mixed in his eyes. "Thank you, sir. I just want Mom to be better. I want her to smile again." The man's mind began to spin with ideas. He had the means, the influence, and the resources to do something more than just giving a few dollars here and there. He could see the urgency, the suffering that a small act of help could alleviate, and yet he also realized he couldn't just hand over a solution and disappear. That wouldn't teach the boy anything. The child needed guidance, care, and a way to rise above his circumstances. "I have an idea," the man said finally. "I want to see your mom, if that's okay. I want to understand more to see how I can help." The boy blinked in surprise. You want to see her?" "Yes," the man said gently. "I don't just want to give you money. I want to make sure it really helps her. I want to understand what you are dealing with." The boy hesitated. Visiting their small apartment, revealing their struggles to a stranger, especially someone who looked so important and wealthy, was frightening. But he sensed the man was sincere. He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll take you. But please don't be upset, Mom. She's very sick and our house is—" "It's not much," the man smiled. "I won't be upset. I promise. I just want to help." Later that afternoon, they walked together through the crowded streets. The boy led the way, holding the man's hand briefly to guide him around puddles and uneven sidewalks. He showed no embarrassment despite the small, cramped apartment they lived in. Inside, it was simple and worn, with peeling paint and a faint smell of medicine and cooking. There were signs of struggle everywhere: empty shelves, worn furniture, and an air of quiet endurance. The mother was lying on a small bed wrapped in a blanket. Her face was pale and she looked fragile, yet when she saw the man, her eyes widened in cautious surprise. The boy ran to her side. "Mom, he wants to help," he said. voice trembling slightly. The mother looked at the man, unsure and wary. "Help," she whispered, her voice weak. The man smiled gently. "Yes," he said softly. "Your son has told me about you, about your illness and how he wants to help. I came to see for myself so I can understand how to make things better." Tears welled in her eyes, but there was also relief. It had been a long time since anyone had offered help without asking for something in return. The sincerity in the man's eyes touched her heart, and she felt a small flicker of hope for the first time in months. Over the next few hours, the man talked with both mother and son. He asked about the illness, the treatments, and the struggles they faced every day. He listened carefully, taking notes in his mind about what they needed most: medicine, better care, and some stability. The boy sat close to his mother, holding her hand, sharing stories about school he once attended, and the small joys they still managed to find in life despite hardship. The mother, seeing the boy's courage and the man's willingness to listen, felt gratitude she couldn't fully express. She wanted to say thank you, but words felt too small for what was happening. Instead, she just held her son's hand tightly, letting him know she saw his efforts, his sacrifices, and his unbroken spirit. The man left that day with a promise in his heart. He could see the boy's determination, the mother's vulnerability, and the weight of their daily struggles. He didn't just want to provide temporary help. He wanted to create a change that would last, something that would lift the boy and his mother out of constant fear and worry. As he walked back to his office, he thought about the world in a way he hadn't before. People like this boy and his mother existed everywhere, silent, unnoticed, struggling in ways that many would never imagine. And yet one small act of kindness could make a ripple that changed everything. For the boy, the day had been exhausting but hopeful. He had shown the man his skills, his heart, and his love for his mother. For the first time, he felt that maybe, just maybe, there were people who would not turn away, people who could make a difference. And for the mother, it was a quiet reassurance that her son's efforts were not in vain, that the world still held compassion, and that there were strangers who could care without judgment. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city buildings and painted the streets in shades of gold and pink, the boy sat by his mother, counting the small savings he had earned that day. His hands were sore and his back ached from hours of work, but his heart was lighter. He whispered to her, "Mom, we'll be okay. I promise. Someone wants to help us, really help us." And for the man, back in his tall office, he stared out at the city skyline, feeling something unfamiliar, but deeply satisfying. He had met someone who reminded him of what really mattered. He had seen courage, love, and resilience in a small boy's eyes. And he knew somehow that this was only the beginning. The next morning, the boy woke up before sunrise. Even though he had worked hard the day before, he still had the same routine. He washed his face with cold water, fixed his hair the best he could, and grabbed his small tin of polish and cloth. Every day was a struggle, but he had learned to find determination in the midst of hardship. He wanted to earn money, to help his mother, and to make a small difference in their lives. As he stepped out into the quiet streets, he noticed the familiar figure of the man approaching from the other side of the street. The boy's heart skipped a beat. The man had come back. For some reason, this time it didn't feel like a coincidence. There was a seriousness in the way the man walked, a sense that he wasn't just passing by or giving a quick handout. He had a purpose. "Good morning," the boy said quietly, adjusting the tin in his hands. "Good morning," the man replied, smiling. His tone was calm but carried a weight that made the boy curious. "I came to see you again. Can we talk for a moment?" The boy nodded and led the man to the side of the street, away from the crowd. He felt both nervous and excited. Something was about to happen, and though he didn't know what, he sensed it could be important. "I wanted to ask you something," the man began carefully. "I saw how hard you worked yesterday, and I want to help you more than just a little money. But I need to understand everything. Will you tell me the truth about your life and your mother?" The boy nodded again, swallowing hard. "I'll tell you, sir. I promise. Mom is very sick. She can't work like she used to. I have to earn money for medicine and food. Sometimes it's not enough and I get scared, but I try." His small hands gripped the tin tightly and his voice shook a little. The man listened quietly, letting the boy speak without interruption. He noticed the boy's resilience, the way he never complained but still carried the weight of responsibility like a shield. It was humbling. He had never realized that someone so young could handle so much and yet still care so deeply. "I think I want to help more," the man said finally. "Not just for today, not just a little money. I want to make sure your mother gets the care she needs. I want to make things easier for you so you don't have to carry this burden alone." The boy blinked in surprise. You want to help us?" "Yes," the man said. "But I don't want to just give you money and leave. I want to see how I can really help. Can I come to your home again today?" The boy hesitated. He knew their home was small, humble, and not something people like this man were used to seeing. But he trusted the man, and he saw sincerity in his eyes. "Okay," he said softly. "I'll take you. Mom will be surprised, but she'll be happy." Later that afternoon, they walked through the crowded streets once more. The boy led the way, careful to avoid puddles and broken pavement. The man followed quietly, observing everything: the hustle of the city, the faces of people rushing past, and the small details of life that many ignored. When they arrived at the apartment, the boy opened the door and motioned for the man to enter. Inside, the mother was sitting up in bed, looking weaker than the day before. But when she saw the man, her eyes widened in cautious surprise. "You're back?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes," the man said gently. "I wanted to see how you are and to understand how I can help." The mother looked at her son, who nodded reassuringly. "It's okay, Mom," he said softly. "He wants to help us." The man sat down on a small chair near the bed and began asking questions about her health, the medicine she needed, and the daily struggles they faced. He listened carefully, taking mental notes about what could be done to make things better. The mother explained the challenges: how the medicine was expensive, how bills kept piling up, and how every day was a fight just to survive. As the conversation continued, the boy watched silently. He felt a mixture of hope and disbelief. He had never imagined someone like this man would take the time to understand their lives, to care without judgment. It was a feeling he had longed for but had almost given up hope of ever experiencing. "I want to do more than just give you money," the man said finally. "I can arrange proper medical care for your mother. I can make sure she gets the treatment she needs, and I can help you continue school. You should have a chance to learn, to grow, and to live without this constant worry." The mother's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say," she whispered. She had lived in fear and exhaustion for so long that hope felt almost foreign. "Thank you. I don't know how we could ever repay you." "You don't need to repay me," the man said firmly. "I just want to help. That's all." Over the next few weeks, the man kept his promise. He arranged for the mother to see a specialist, covered her medical expenses, and made sure she received proper care. He also helped the boy return to school, providing the support he needed to balance his studies with any small responsibilities he still had at home. The boy thrived in school, surprising his teachers with his determination and intelligence. Despite the challenges he had faced, he had a curiosity and a willingness to learn that made him stand out. He worked hard, not just to succeed academically, but to honor the efforts he had made for his mother and the opportunities now given to him. The mother slowly began to recover. She regained her strength, her smile returning, and with it the warmth of a home that had been heavy with worry for too long. She watched her son with pride, knowing that his courage and love had opened the door to this new chapter in their lives. The man continued to visit them, sometimes bringing small gifts or books for the boy, other times just spending time talking and listening. He became a mentor, a friend, and a guiding presence, helping the boy navigate the challenges of life while instilling confidence and hope. One afternoon, as the boy polished the man's shoes again, this time with a lightness in his movements, not the desperation of before, the man watched him with a sense of pride. "You've come a long way," he said quietly. The boy looked up, a small smile on his face. "I've had help," he said simply. "I couldn't have done it alone." The man nodded. "True, but you've also shown strength, courage, and heart. Those are things that can't be given, they come from you." The boy's eyes sparkled. "I want to keep helping people, sir," he said. "Just like you helped us, I want to help others someday." The man smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment he hadn't felt in years. "And you will," he said. "I'm sure of it." As the days passed, their bond grew stronger. The boy became more confident, the mother more hopeful, and the man more aware of the difference that kindness and attention could make. He began to see the world differently, noticing the small struggles around him and understanding the importance of human connection beyond business deals and schedules. It wasn't always easy. There were days when the mother felt weak, when the boy felt tired, and when the man struggled to balance his own life with the desire to help. But they faced these challenges together, learning from one another, supporting one another, and growing stronger as a unit. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, the boy sat by his mother's side, reading aloud from a small book the man had given him. The mother listened quietly, her hand resting on his shoulder, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The man watched from the doorway, smiling quietly to himself. This was the moment he had hoped for, a family finding hope, a child finding purpose, and a life beginning to change for the better. The boy looked up from the book, his eyes shining. "Thank you," he said softly, looking at the man. "For everything." The man shook his head. "No, thank you," he replied. "You've taught me more than you know. About courage, love, and hope. You've reminded me what really matters." And in that simple exchange, the bond between them deepened. The boy realized that help could come in unexpected ways, and that courage and honesty could open doors that seemed impossible. The mother felt the weight of worry lift slightly, knowing her son's heart and the kindness of a stranger had created a path to a better life. And the man understood that true success wasn't measured in wealth or power, but in the difference you could make in the lives of others. The small boy who once pleaded for $10 had unknowingly started a journey that would change all their lives. And for the first time in a long time, they all felt a sense of hope that stretched beyond the streets, beyond the city, and into the future. Days turned into weeks, and the boy's life began to change in ways he had never imagined. It started with small things. The medicine his mother needed was always available, and she had started to regain her strength. The house, though still modest, felt warmer and safer. For the first time in a long while, the boy could focus on school without the crushing worry that his mother might fall ill, and they would have nowhere to turn. The boy returned to school with a renewed determination. He sat at his desk, surrounded by other children who had always seemed so carefree, and for the first time he didn't feel left out. He had faced struggles they could not imagine, and it had given him a perspective and a drive that set him apart. Teachers noticed his dedication, his focus, and the curiosity in his eyes. He asked questions, completed assignments diligently, and slowly began to catch up on the education he had missed. At home, his mother's laughter returned, soft at first, and then louder as her strength grew. She would sit by the window knitting or cooking, and talk to her son about his day, sharing in his small victories and encouraging him when he felt discouraged. She had always been proud of him, but now there was a new light in her eyes, a light of hope, of relief, and of gratitude for the unexpected kindness that had entered their lives. The man continued to visit. Sometimes it was for practical reasons, helping arrange appointments or providing resources. Other times it was simply to sit and talk. He would ask the boy about school, about his dreams, and about how he was feeling. He would listen quietly, letting the boy speak freely, giving him a chance to process everything that was happening in his young life. "You're doing very well," the man said one afternoon as the boy polished his shoes again, though now it was more out of habit than necessity. "I'm proud of you." The boy looked up, a small smile on his face. "I'm trying, sir. I want to make my mom proud, and I want to show that all the help you gave me wasn't wasted." "You already are making her proud," the man replied gently, "and your efforts are never wasted. Every step you take, every small thing you do matters more than you know." One day, the man suggested something that surprised the boy. "I want you to meet some people who can help you even more. There are programs for children like you who want to learn and grow, people who can give you books, tutoring, and guidance. Would you like that?" The boy hesitated for a moment. He had been cautious, used to disappointment, and didn't want to hope too much. But he looked at the man, saw the sincerity in his eyes, and nodded. "Yes, sir. I would like that very much." Over the next few weeks, the boy began attending the programs. He met other children from different backgrounds, some facing challenges similar to his own. For the first time, he realized he was not alone. He was part of a larger world where people cared, where there were opportunities to learn, grow, and create a future. The boy thrived in this environment. He asked questions, completed projects with dedication, and even helped other children when he could, sharing the lessons he had learned from his own life. At home, the changes were just as profound. The mother's health continued to improve, and with it, her confidence. She began preparing meals again, tidying the small apartment and taking care of herself in ways she hadn't been able to before. The fear and anxiety that had once consumed her slowly gave way to gratitude and hope. She would look at her son and the man who had helped them, and feel a deep sense of relief and appreciation she could never fully put into words. The man watched these changes quietly, feeling a sense of fulfillment he had not experienced in years. He had seen many people in his life, some struggling, some thriving, some lost, some successful. But the transformation he was witnessing in this small family was different. It wasn't about money or power. It was about courage, love, and the ripple effect of a small act of kindness. One evening, as the boy sat polishing his shoes, not out of necessity but as a habit and a way to practice focus, the man spoke to him seriously. "You know, your story is inspiring. It shows that even in the toughest times, courage and determination can create change. But I want you to remember something. Your potential is far greater than you realize. You can achieve anything if you continue to work hard and believe in yourself." The boy listened carefully, feeling a mix of pride and responsibility. "I will, sir," he said softly. "I want to do something big someday. I want to help people just like you helped us." The man smiled. "And you will. I am certain of it. But always remember, it starts with small steps, and those steps lead to bigger ones. Never forget where you came from, and never forget the lessons you've learned along the way." As weeks turned into months, the boy's life continued to improve. He excelled in school, earning praise from teachers and recognition for his efforts. The mother's health stabilized, and she regained a sense of normalcy that she had feared she would never experience again. The man remained a steady presence in their lives, offering guidance, support, and encouragement whenever it was needed. The boy also began to understand the value of giving back. He started helping other children in his neighborhood, tutoring them, sharing books, and encouraging them to pursue their dreams despite challenges. His experiences had taught him empathy, resilience, and the importance of community. He wanted to be a source of hope for others, just as he had received hope when he needed it most. The man watched these developments with quiet satisfaction. He had always believed in the power of small acts, but he had never seen their impact so clearly. One small encounter on a busy street had led to a transformation that extended far beyond one family. It was a reminder that change could begin anywhere, and that genuine care could create ripples that reached farther than anyone could predict. One afternoon, as the boy and his mother sat together reading a book, the man arrived with a small gift. "I thought you might like this," he said, handing them a package of books and educational materials. The boy's eyes widened and his mother smiled warmly. "Thank you," the boy said softly. "This will help me so much," the man nodded. "Use them well. Learn as much as you can, and remember, knowledge is a gift that no one can take away from you." The boy carefully opened the books, examining each one with curiosity and excitement. He realized that these were tools that could help him grow, achieve his dreams, and continue to build a life where he and his mother could thrive. The gift was more than just books. It was a symbol of opportunity, of trust, and of the belief that he could succeed. Days passed and life settled into a new rhythm. The boy attended school regularly, completed his assignments, and spent time helping others. The mother regained her strength and began thinking about ways to improve their home, to make it a place of comfort and happiness. And the man continued to offer guidance, ensuring that the family had stability, support, and the knowledge that they were not alone in facing life's challenges. The boy often reflected on the journey they had taken. He remembered the day he first approached the man for $10, the fear and desperation he had felt, and the hope that had seemed so fragile. Now he understood that courage, honesty, and a willingness to ask for help could open doors that had once seemed impossible. He realized that life's challenges could be overcome with determination, support, and the belief that better days were possible. One evening, as the sun set and cast a warm glow over the city, the boy and his mother sat by the window holding hands. The man joined them, and together they watched the world outside, the bustling streets, the people hurrying home, and the city alive with possibility. It was a moment of peace, a moment of gratitude, and a moment of reflection. The boy turned to the man and said, "I promise I will never forget what you did for us. I will keep working hard, and one day I will help others just like you helped us." The man smiled warmly. I believe you will, and I know that your heart and your determination will guide you to make a real difference. Remember, the world needs people like you. People who care, who act, and who never give up. The mother joined in, her voice soft but strong. Thank you for giving us hope. You didn't just help us survive. You gave us a chance to live fully again. The man shook his head gently. No, thank you. You've taught me something important as well, about resilience, love, and the power of small acts. You've reminded me what really matters. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the glow of the setting sun, the three of them shared an unspoken understanding. Life had been difficult, full of challenges and struggles, but together they had found hope, strength, and the promise of a brighter future. The boy's courage, the mother's resilience, and the man's compassion had created a bond that would last a lifetime. The city outside continued its rush, but inside that small apartment, there was peace, gratitude, and a sense of possibility. The boy's journey had come a long way from the day he asked for $10 to help his mother. What had started as a simple act of seeking help had grown into a transformation that touched their hearts, their lives, and the lives of others around them. And as they sat together, watching the world with hope and determination, they all knew that this was only the beginning. The changes they had made, the lessons they had learned, and the love they shared would continue to guide them, creating a future filled with promise, kindness, and the knowledge that one act of courage could change everything. Years had passed since the boy first approached the man for $10 to help his mother. Back then he had been small, timid, and burdened with worry beyond his years. Now he had grown into a young man, strong, confident, and full of determination. School had become more than a place to learn. It had become a place where he discovered his abilities, dreams, and the joy of helping others. The man had stayed in their lives, not as a distant benefactor, but as a mentor, a friend, and a guide who had shown them that life could be brighter even when it seemed impossible. The mother had fully recovered. Her days were no longer consumed by illness and fear. She could walk without fatigue, cook meals without worry, and laugh freely again. She often watched her son with pride, marveling at the young man he had become. She knew that his courage, his perseverance, and the kindness he carried in his heart had been the foundation of their new life. She also knew that the man's guidance and support had played a vital role in transforming their world. The young man still remembered the first day he had asked for help. He could see it clearly in his mind. The bustling streets, the people rushing past, and the polished shoes reflecting the sunlight. He could remember the fear and hope in his small chest, the trembling of his hands, and the urgent desire to help his mother. That small moment had changed everything, not just for him, but for the life he and his mother now lived. One afternoon, the young man sat at a small desk in his room, reading a book he had borrowed from the man. It was a story about people who had overcome hardship, about courage and perseverance. He often thought about how similar their lives were to the stories he read. Every day he reminded himself that he wanted to be a person who could make a difference, who could help others, just as he had been helped. The man visited them one evening, as he often did. He brought with him a sense of calm and encouragement that made the young man feel at ease. They sat together in the small living room, talking about school, life, and the future. You've done so much, the man said gently. I see how hard you work, how much you care about your mother, and how much effort you put into learning. You should be proud of yourself, the young man smiled softly. I am proud, sir, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Without you believing in us, I don't know where we would be today. The man shook his head. I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just saw your courage and decided to help. The real work has always been yours. You faced challenges that would have crushed many people, and you kept going. That's the true strength. The young man looked down, thinking about the years that had passed. He remembered shining shoes, the fear of not earning enough, and the long nights worrying about his mother. He thought about how far they had come and how every small step had led to this moment. I want to do more than just succeed for myself, he said finally. I want to help others like you helped us, the man smiled. And you will, I know it. The heart and courage you carry will guide you, and your experiences will help you understand the struggles of others. You'll make a real difference, just like you hoped you could all those years ago. In the weeks that followed, the young man began volunteering at local programs for children who were struggling. He tutored them, shared his knowledge, and encouraged them to believe in themselves. He remembered his own journey, the small kindness that had changed his life, and he wanted to pass it forward. It wasn't about recognition or reward. It was about giving others the same hope that had been given to him. At home, the mother watched him with pride. She knew that the boy who had once begged for $10 had grown into a man capable of inspiring others. Her heart swelled with gratitude for the man who had stepped into their lives years ago, for the guidance he had provided, and for the opportunity that had allowed her son to become someone who could change the world. The man continued to visit, offering guidance and support when needed. He encouraged the young man to pursue higher education, to seek opportunities that would allow him to grow, and to never lose sight of his dreams. Together, they discussed plans for the future, projects that could help more children, and ways to create lasting change. One afternoon, the young man received a scholarship to continue his studies at a respected institution. It was a recognition of his hard work, dedication, and potential. He could hardly believe it, thinking back to the days when his biggest worry was earning $10 to buy medicine for his mother. He realized how far he had come, and it filled him with gratitude and determination to continue his journey. The mother, sitting beside him, held his hand tightly. "I am so proud of you," she whispered. "You've worked so hard and you've never given up. You've shown me what courage really means." The young man smiled. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. You gave me the strength to keep going even when everything seemed impossible." The man, watching the exchange, felt a quiet satisfaction. He had seen many people in his life, but none had left such a lasting impact on him as this boy and his mother. He realized that true success wasn't measured by wealth or power, but by the lives we touch, the hope we give, and the love we share. As the young man continued his studies, he also expanded his efforts to help other children. He organized small programs, worked with local communities, and shared his story to inspire others. He wanted children to understand that no matter how small or powerless they felt, they could make a difference in their own lives and the lives of others. The boy who had once approached a stranger for $10 had grown into a man who inspired others, just as he had been inspired. His journey had come full circle. The act of kindness that had started as a small gesture had created ripples far beyond what anyone could have imagined. One evening, the young man, his mother, and the man sat together, reflecting on the journey they had taken. The city outside was alive with its usual noise, but inside there was peace, gratitude, and a sense of accomplishment. They had faced hardship, fear, and uncertainty, yet they had overcome it together. The young man spoke quietly, his voice filled with emotion. "I will never forget the day I asked for $10. It changed everything. It gave us hope, it gave us a chance, and it showed me that kindness can create miracles. I want to keep that alive for myself and for others." The man nodded. "You've kept that alive every day, and now you're passing it forward. That is the true meaning of what happened. One small act of courage, one act of kindness can change everything. You've lived that lesson, and now others will too." The mother added softly, "I am grateful every day for the help, the guidance, and the love that came into our lives. You didn't just help us survive. You gave us a life filled with hope, opportunity, and the chance to dream again." As they sat together, the young man realized that life was full of unexpected twists. Who would have thought that a boy shining shoes to earn $10 for medicine would one day become a young man capable of inspiring others, changing lives, and giving back in ways he had never imagined? It was a journey of courage, determination, and love. And for the man, who had walked past the boy on that busy street years ago, it was a reminder of the power of paying attention, of believing in people, and of the impact that one act of kindness could create. He had seen a life transformed, a family healed, and a young man rise above challenges with courage and heart. It was a lesson he would carry forever. Sometimes, the smallest gestures have the greatest power, and one child's courage can touch the lives of many. The young man continued to grow, his life full of purpose and meaning. He excelled in his studies, became a mentor to others, and always remembered where he came from. The struggles he had faced were no longer chains holding him back. They were the foundation of his strength, resilience, and empathy. And so, the boy who once asked for $10 had not only changed his own life and his mother's, but had begun a journey to change the lives of countless others. His story became a reminder that hope, courage, and kindness could overcome even the most difficult circumstances. In the end, what had started as a simple plea on a busy street became a story of transformation, love, and the power of human connection. The young man, his mother, and the man had all been changed by that moment, and the lessons they learned would continue to ripple outward, inspiring others for years to come. The boy's journey had come full circle. From desperation to hope, from struggle to opportunity, from fear to courage, he had grown into someone who could shape a brighter future, not just for himself, but for everyone he touched. And every time he helped another child, smiled at a struggling mother, or encouraged someone to keep going, he remembered the lesson that had changed his life. One act of kindness, one moment of courage could change everything.